All right, everyone. So I wanted to give you guys a little backstory, being that now I have a actual complete collection, thanks to finally getting a copy of Iron Soldier 2 cartridge version for the Jaguar. But yeah, a little backstory here is the the way I got into collecting the Jaguar was actually pretty interesting. Um, And in fact, I didn't have the system first. I actually bought a game first, then got the system later. Normally, I would pick up the system and then start getting the games, but this was actually the first time I actually got games. Well, yeah, pretty much got games before actually picking up the system. And it all started with Tempest 2000. Now, keep in mind, is when I first got the game for it, it was just a loose cartridge, and the actual cart that I purchased from that place is actually in this box. There are some sentimental values to that, so that's why I'm always keeping the actual cartridge for it, even though I wanted a complete box version. Now, the way I actually found Tempest 2000 was there was a. This was back when I was in college, but I was with a friend of mine. We went to this mom and pop's rental store that was actually going out of business, and apparently they were also selling off a bunch of Genesis and Sega, uh, Super Nintendo games, things like that. Of course, there was also movies and stuff like that too. But I was going through the Sega Genesis stuff because, like, let me go ahead and look for some Genesis games, just to pick up. Now, I saw this one cartridge. Now, if you're not familiar with how Jaguar games look like, especially the cartridges, this is how they look like. So they're all lined up, but there was one cartridge that looked like this. So imagine like a whole row of Genesis games, and then one looks like this. Like, okay, this kind of pops out, looks a little different. At first, like, okay, it's just like some kind of weird Genesis cartridge because some Genesis cartridges did look a little different from the standard version. So I kind of figured it was that. Then I realized, like, wait a minute, this is not a Genesis game. This is a Atari Jaguar game, which was Tempest 2000. So I asked the guy how much it was. And he's like, oh, it's $1. So I went ahead and got it. No joke. And that was literally the first game I actually bought for the Jaguar. And then later on, keep in mind, I didn't have the system or anything. So later on, I was on Craigslist, going through some listings, and then the store was selling a bundle for a Jaguar console. I think I want to say it was like $100. The system, two controllers, several games for it. And the drive, I want to say, was about maybe a little over an hour away from my house. So it was a little bit of a drive. Um, but, when I got there, I was also looking through some other stuff. I went there intending to pick up the system. This console worked and everything, of course, because it is the one that I have. So, sitting right there, even though I have the Jaguar CD now, but the actual console itself that I bought that time is the one that's in there. So I was also going through some other games, and there was a Jaguar CD game, which was Blue Lightning. It's the guy's like, hey, you have the Jaguar CD for it. It's like, no, I don't have it. But the guy decided to just throw in that game with it, being that, well, he knows he won't have the system, and what's the point of having carrying games when there's no console to sell? So it's like, all right, throw it in. So I basically got, an extra game for it for free, which is pretty cool. Then I started just buying up, some other games, especially when I was down in Florida for a while. And holy crap, there are some really good stores in the Georgia Florida borders. There's a couple of game stores, and one of them actually had quite a bit of Jaguar games. One of them was, where was it? Which I think one of them was Club Drive, and I want to say there was another racing game. What's the, damn it? What was the other crappy racing game called? Uh, oh geez, I'm having a brain fart right now. How do I not remember that game? It's somewhere. Huh? It's always funny how you're trying to look for the game, but it's not exactly showing up. It would have been a lot easier if I actually went through the games one by one. Let's see here. No. Oh, duh! It was right next to Club Drive. That's Checkered Flag. Um, but there was actually also quite a bit of other games, um, and they were all complete box copies. So when I finally got back home from Florida, I was down there for several months. Um, I started looking at the games I have, and at that point, I was having several loose cards of games. But then, as I was, trying out more and more games for the system, I was buying the complete box versions because this was before, this was actually right before what I like to call the retro craze started happening. Um, so a lot of the games I've been picking up, especially before like the Angry Video Game Nerds videos of the Atari Jaguar. And I think like at that point, that's when a lot more people started, collecting for the system. But I was actually kind of lucky to start picking up these games before a lot of the value of these games started going up like crazy. And especially buying games complete box because now you can find loose carts of certain games, but when I was buying the games, I was buying complete box versions of those same games for either about the same price or cheaper. So, keep in mind games, a lot of the games like Doom, um, Breakout, Atari Carts, Attack of the Mutant Penguins, for example, Alien versus Predator, um, like Alien versus Predator, for example. I got this game. It was an eBay listing, and I want to say they were selling this for like $40, complete and everything except for the overlays. So like, okay, maybe later on I'll get lucky and find the overlays. So I went ahead and got it, and it's like, man, I really wish I had the overlays for it. And then one day, I was just browsing on eBay, and then someone was actually selling the overlays for the game. All because this game has three different overlays because you're playing as the Colonial Marine, the Alien, the Predator. So there's an overlay for each one. Someone was actually selling it for $10. Like, holy crap! Let me go ahead and get it. And now I have the overlays for it, which is pretty cool. But there was just some other games I have that wasn't exactly complete, so I went ahead and either bought the pieces I needed or got another copy, but was actually complete. And then I would just sell off the other copies, just to try to make it back. Um, but yeah, games like Atari Cards, for example. Um, I want to say I went through two other games before this. I originally bought a loose cart. Then I found someone selling a box version, but there was no manual. So like, okay, let me just get it like this. Maybe I'll find the manual, and then I never did. So someone else was selling another copy that actually has the manual. Went ahead and got that, then sold off the other one, put it up as a bid, and then ended up getting for essentially the same price that I originally got with the manual. Most of the time when I sell stuff on eBay, almost always it's going to be as an auction. So whatever the person pays for it is what I'm willing to go for. And a lot of times what they pay for is essentially what I originally got it when I was trying to get a complete copy. Some people might have a problem with that, but the way I look at it is if you're putting it up as an auction and then someone's bidding on it, and then you get a couple of people bidding on the game, you know what? That's up to them how much they want to pay for. I'm not going to tell them, "Oh no, you're paying too much." That's up to them. That's just how I see it personally. Um, but yeah, I'm one of the few that has a complete collection of this stuff. Pretty cool. Um, do I plan on getting rid of it? No. Um, the other stuff I'm more willing to get rid of, but not this. Part of the reason why is, you know, up either from the system to the games, there's just a lot of different memories when it comes to these different games for it. And that's just going to sound a little bit weird, but there are some sentimental values to this. When I got Tempest 2000, it's the very first game. I was with a friend of mine. We were in college. We went to this place looking at games. There's some memories there. There were also some other Jaguar games I bought when I was down in Florida. There are some memories there too. There's a lot of different stories with these games. So it's not just the actual games themselves, but how I acquire them was also really interesting. So that's part of the reason why. And there's also games I just want to play. So yeah, that's really the story behind this collection. And there was a turning point where I actually had several loose cards, and at that point, it's like, you know what? Instead of just buying loose cards or just getting the games first, well, I would like to get them as cheap as possible, but I also set my mind that, okay, from here on out, the only games I'm going to be getting is going to be complete box. I don't care how many loose cards out there. If I can't get it complete, I'm not interested. And here it is. Pretty cool. Jaguar. Anyway, that's it. Like always, have a good one. Leave comments down below. Like this video. Yeah, thumbs up, all that stuff. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. That's always useful. And like always, have a good one. And just a little known fact, the Jaguar is the very last console to be designed in the United States and made in the United States. Yep. Apparently, IBM was contracted to build and distribute the Jaguar console. Pretty cool. Anyway, like always, have a good one.